you have a check ride coming up. Either it's already been scheduled or you know it's the next thing you need to do. You've been told that you need to get ready and prepare for it, but you've never been told what that means, and so you don't know what to do. You're feeling nervous. You're questioning all of your life choices up to this point. But there's an easy way to get ready for your check ride. It's so easy, it feels like cheating. Brady is a subscriber to this channel, and he found himself in that exact same situation. Now, Brady is an experienced pilot. He's a helicopter pilot from the Army, so he knows something about flying already. But he didn't know how to prepare for an FAA check ride. And the truth is we don't do a particularly good job of helping people get ready for check rides. So he reached out for help, we connected, and we scheduled a time where we could meet. He wanted to know how he could use his FAA knowledge test report and how to use that to actually get ready for his check ride. When you take your knowledge test, you get a report at the end. On it, it tells you all of the codes for the knowledge test questions that you missed. Some questions actually cover more than one knowledge test code, but it gives you a full list. This is your secret key to how you need to prepare for your check ride. So we came up with a plan. You see, when you sit down for your check ride for the oral portion, the examiner has to ask you about each and every one of those knowledge test codes. These you should be treating as freebies. They're questions that you already know are going to be asked. So what I told Brady and what I tell all of my students is to write out those knowledge test codes and the title for each one. Then what you need to do is you write 2 to 3 bullet points each of the most important points. That's the first half of it. Then the second half of the battle is to review it with an instructor. Once you've done that, you can take your notes into the check ride. And now when the examiner starts asking you questions about your knowledge test codes, you have the information right there in front of you. And you can just glance at it, review it, and make sure it is. And you'll already be ahead of the game. Let me show you what this looks like. Okay? So, on the knowledge test code, on that knowledge test report page, everyone kind of always skips over it. But it really already says it's the learning statement codes listed below represent incorrectly answered questions. Learning statement codes and their associated statements can be found at, and then it gives you the internet link to the learning statement reference guide. This is the key to understanding what all these little codes at the bottom mean. A single code may represent more than one incorrect response. So let's go over to that learning statement guide, okay? It's 25 pages of face melting fun. You don't read this document. It's just a lookup table is what it is. Now, when you look up the codes, okay, for these items, okay, let's take one here. PLT 257, recall glider performance, speed, distance, ballast, lift, and drag. Oftentimes what will happen is you'll look up what the title of that code is and you will instantly remember, oh, I knew I was confused on that question. And generally you remember exactly which question you had problems with, okay? And we're gonna take all the knowledge test codes you have, we're gonna write them down. Then we're gonna use this document, the learning statement guide, to write down the titles, the actual, what that means. PLT, these are all PLT codes, I mean pilot, okay? You're taking a pilot test as opposed to tests for mechanics or other things, okay? So what I did is I said, hey, I'm going to show you an example. Okay, he's a CFIG candidate. Okay, and then we just start writing, and I just start writing them out. Okay, PLT 012, I write out the title. Okay, PLT 064, interpret information on a sectional chart. Okay, and then I just leave some blank spaces. Okay, and I did the first one for him. I said, here are 2 to 3 bullet points, and then I just leave the bullet points on the next one, on the other ones free. And I said, fill this out, and then we'll sit down and talk about it. He took my initial version, okay, and he improved it, and he made it personal to him. Okay, he knew exactly which questions he saw on his knowledge test and what areas were confusing to him. And so he wrote down, he improved it, changed the formatting a little bit, and then wrote out for each one of his knowledge test questions. Okay, and then what we have to do, the next part, is the review. That's the second part of it that's so important. Review it with an instructor. He wanted to review it, and so I said, hey, look, let's sit down and we'll go over and do it. We'll set up a mentoring call. We did it. He's over in Georgia. I'm in Arizona. Didn't matter. We found a time that worked for both of us. Now, as an experienced instructor, it's my job to ask questions just the same way the examiner will. Okay? And also to make sure your knowledge is appropriate to your level of test. Okay? When you're taking a check ride, the examiner is expecting you to have knowledge at your level. If you have greater knowledge, that's awesome, fantastic. The examiner doesn't need that though, okay? As you progress in your pilot career, there is a certain level of depth of knowledge that you're expected to understand at the private pilot level, a deeper level of knowledge at the commercial level, and an even deeper level at the flight instructor level, okay? And your examiner knows which level you're going for, and they're going to ask you questions and expect you to have knowledge at that level. And so it's my job to make sure that you understand at the level the examiner expects you to know it at. It's the same level of knowledge they're expecting you to understand at the knowledge test, okay? And this can be particularly tricky for flight instructors because oftentimes during a check ride, the examiner will ask you to teach this principle, teach aerodynamics, teach angle of attack, teach it, and then they'll say, teach it at the private pilot level, or teach it at the commercial pilot level, or teach it at the flight instructor level. And so once you get to that level, you need to understand what each student needs for it. But if you come to me for just your private or commercial check ride, we'll focus on the level that the examiner is expecting you to know. If this was valuable to you, give it a like. And if you need help with your upcoming check ride, reach out to me in the links below. We can schedule a time where we can meet, and I can help you with your knowledge test report or any other questions you might have. So that way you can be confident and successful as you go into your check ride.